Hello, welcome to Free Will, Science, and Religion. I'm Chandler Klebs, and I'm here with George Ortega, Jamie Soden, and a new person on our podcast, Anthony Bishop. And
Hello.
hello, Anthony. He's kind of new to this whole free will topic, and so each of us are going to explain to him why free will is completely impossible no matter how you slice the bread, you know. And so, yeah, we could each take turns, and then he can ask us any questions and present his own perspective on it at the moment. So, let's see. Should I start explaining why it's impossible, or Jamie or George? Do you want to?
No, why don't you start and then we can turn it over to Anthony.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, basically, the reason that you could not have a free will is that you could not be the first cause of any choice or decision that you think you're making. Because anything you do, there's a reason for it. There's a cause behind it. That's the main reason is that if you do something, there's a reason why that happened that led you to do it. And there's a reason why that happened. And there's a reason why that happened. It goes back before you're born, before you were conceived, before even your parents existed. It just goes back infinitely, basically. And you're not responsible for what happened before you're born, obviously. And so if people get that, they'll understand that really nothing's up to them. But the other thing is some people try to say, well, not everything has a cause. And I'm like, well, if it's not caused, then you didn't cause it either, so you're still not responsible for it. They call that, true randomness or indeterminism or acausality. And that's just as difficult for free will and human responsibility as determinism is. So that's the short case I make about it.
Excellent. Anthony, you want to explain through the biochemistry you were relating before, why just, we just don't have free wills?
Well, I think it's mostly just to do with chemicals in our brain, which, atoms and shit, like they put together, they smack, and they create these chemicals and stuff in the air. And I think, to be honest, it's where people are getting brainwashed as well. You get other people influencing, and that creates more chemicals, which actually mess up with the brain cells. And I think, to be honest, if we did have free will, we would be able to do what we want. We'd be able to go out and murder someone or kill someone, and we wouldn't have like the cause of the reaction to it. That's like my side of it and stuff.
That sounds good. And related to the chemistry, I mean, certainly, for example, if we have 5, 6 cups of coffee, in the morning, that's going to affect our behavior. If we drink a few beers, that's going to affect our behavior. We take these prescription meds, that often affects our behavior, our thinking and stuff. So that's clear.
Yeah.
But another way, Anthony, is like, for example, like in terms of the brain, and Chandler, this relates to what you were explaining relative to causality, is like we have our brain is in a certain state at this present moment, right? And
Yeah.
that our present brain state, all the chemicals, all the neurons in our brain, at the present moment, it was completely caused by our brain state in the previous moment. And that brain state was caused by the brain state in the moment before that. So this causality applies to our brain and to all the neurons within it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like with sleeping pills. I mean, the reason why we have sleeping pills is because some people have trouble sleeping at night. And if we had a free will, we'll be able to, doze off whenever we want. But because we don't have a free will to, choose when to sleep or not, sometimes getting off to sleep at night times can be problematic if you've got sleeping disorders. My antidepressants that I'm on right now, right, have a sleeping drug in them. My antidepressant's called mirtazapine, I believe it's called, and it has a sleeping pill kind of agent inside of it, and that makes me drowsy at night times. So even when I'm not fatigued, I would still doze off after I've had them.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Jamie. Why would there be sleeping pills if people could just choose to fall asleep? Yeah. I mean, it has to deal like now. First of all, the kind of control that people think that they have when they think they have a free will is they seem to believe that they can feel what they want to feel and think what they want to think. And like, now we know that nobody can be free of causality anyway, because that's impossible. But like the closest thing to having the kind of free will that a lot of people are thinking about is you would have to control your brain chemistry. You would, and that's the thing, just like Anthony pointed out, you know, chemicals in our brains and atoms smacking into each other. It sounds funny. But yeah, basically, let's say that you could do that. Let's say that you could make the hormone levels in your brain and all that whatever you wanted. Well, you could make yourself as happy as you wanted. You wouldn't be addicted to drugs. You wouldn't. Would then your level of happiness would have nothing whatever to do. You could nullify it and be blissed out like George Ortega wants to do. You know? Yeah, another thing is you could be sexually attracted to anything you wanted or just be completely asexual, which would be really nice. That's why I kind of wish that people had a free will as far as that goes. You know, just nullify it. I choose not to be attracted to you anymore. It's like, yeah.
All right, Anthony, like, you know, we've done, this is like our, I think our 36th podcast or something like that.
Okay.
You know, and you know, I've done like over 180 television episodes on this. But here's the thing, like, people, you know, what we're saying, for some reason, it makes really strong and clear sense to us. But to a lot of our audience, it's like they can't wrap their heads around it. So can you explain again in a bit more detail with more of a connection why our brain chemistry makes free will impossible? Why if our brain is, like, you know, controlled by chemicals, you know, that just, you know, doesn't allow for free will?
Well,
use the drugs example.
Hold on, Jamie.
Yeah, I would probably have to go back to like the beginning of the world when it first started, when we first appeared. I think it was like 400 million years going back, but that was when the Earth originally started.
No, it was 13.7 billion years ago.
Oh, 13. Yeah.
Well, the universe is, I think, 13.8. I think the Earth is about 4.5 billion, I think.
Yeah. So when this originally started and stuff, and the Earth actually originally came here, they said it was all to do with the Big Bang, and basically, I think it was all to do where all these like combustions, like hitting each other and stuff, and smacking against each other, which created it, and then so we appeared. And I think, to be honest, because they were chemicals in the air as well, in the universe, we've got a lot of chemicals. And if you're smacking certain chemicals against each other, you're creating something new. And basically, I think it created us in the Big Bang theory of it, if you see what I mean. And I think how these chemicals reacted, they reacted to our human cells, which actually affected our brain as well. So they're basically controlling us. I mean, although we haven't got free will, we have to an extent, but we still are in like the middle where we've got to keep into the law book and stuff. I mean, if we're going outside the law book, we're getting in trouble. So technically, we don't get that freedom of like causality and stuff. We do. It's like a cause and effect. If there's always an action to a reaction, and that's how I think it is to it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You know, yeah, there's for every action, there's a reaction, basically. I think Isaac Newton said something like that.
Right, and again, Anthony, I mean, basically you're describing our brains as chemical reactions. And like, you know, anybody should understand that we can't control those chemical reactions. Those chemical reactions control us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you drink, like, say, alcohol, that's a chemical. And if you drink too much of that chemical, it affects the way you move, affects the way you've your speech and your impediments and stuff, and your walking distance and your control ability and stuff. That's how I think on that one.
Yeah, and in fact, why do people, for example, drink alcohol? Because they want to have an experience that they can't freely will. You know, alcohol will a lot of times make people feel more relaxed, more comfortable with other people, and that's why people take it. They know that, you know, if we had a free will, why, you know, as Chandler was saying, why would we need alcohol? Why would we need any of these kinds like of medications or drugs and everything?
Yeah, I mean, why would you need antidepressants for being depressed? Like, I'm on antidepressants because I have problems with depression. And what else? Oh, what was I going to bring up? It's not just with alcohol, man. There's other things as well. Like you were saying, there's other drugs that can affect certain behaviours as well, isn't there, George?
Well, caffeine. Caffeine's a big one. I don't know how it is in the UK, but here in the United States, like almost everybody's on it, and everybody gets stressed out.
Yeah, I'm actually quite addicted to that. So I drink
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
Coke.
so am I, man. Totally. I mean,
I'm totally high.
yeah, because if I had a free will, I could wake up in the morning without Pepsi, but I can't do it.
I definitely can't wake up in the morning without Pepsi or Coke and stuff. It's just like non-avoidable.
Yeah, and caffeine has the opposite effect of weed, doesn't it, George? I mean, weed calms you down, whereas caffeine raises your heart rate and your blood pressure, and in high doses, it can be potentially lethal.
Right, and again, in moderate doses, caffeine could actually be very beneficial. I think, like when you're over 50, I think it's probably even more beneficial to drink a drink like every night than not, whatever. So, like, we're not saying these agents are necessarily harmful. They can be beneficial, but again, like if alcohol and caffeine and antidepressants are all, if we're taking them, obviously that's an indication that we're not able to do for ourselves what they're able to do chemically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, then there's energy drinks, but like Red Bull and stuff like that. But the thing is, if you have too much caffeine, it can actually affect you in a negative way.
Yeah, it can pump your heart as well quite fast. It's a bit like taking weed, but it actually supposed, instead of slowing your heart rate down, it actually pumps it even worse.
Yeah.
Right. Anthony, you were saying before that basically, we can't just decide to be, for example, a murderer or something like that. We, basically, and the part of this is like, we also can't decide to just feel really, really good. I got to mute my mic for a minute because there's a call coming in, but like, yeah, Anthony, you want to address that?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, if you think about like murdering someone and stuff, like it's just like an image in your head, like you want to go and kill someone. But I think it's because it's a reaction, and basically the chemicals are like helping you. But then you think to yourself, well, if you're doing that, the actual particles in your brain and stuff, the cells, they tell you differently, because you've got two sides of the brain. One tells you to do something, one tells you not to. And I think basically they have a confliction with each other, the two sides of the brain. And I think that's what... Yeah, and I think when people say drink alcohol and stuff, they try to use it as a stimulating source, so they can actually go into a fantasy world to make themselves think that they're in control for real, but they're still not in control. It's just their fantasy they want to get away from.
Yeah, and you make a great point, basically, Anthony, because basically whatever we decide to do, one thing or another, we have like competing motivations, right? Like, do we want to go out and watch a movie? Do we want to stay in, read a book? Do we want, to do something, or do we want to do something else? There's always like part of us like that wants one thing, another. Then we're weighing in: is it the right thing to do? Is it going to create pleasure? I mean, is it harmful? Whatever. So basically, what happens with every decision we make, we've got these competing motivations, and the stronger motivation is always going to win, right? And a lot of times we don't know until it happens what our strongest motivation is.
Yeah. Well, we won't go out and murder people because the part of our brains that deals with empathy tells us not to. I mean, the compulsion to not murder people within us is stronger than any motive to resort to violence. So that's why we don't do these sort of things. But diagnosed psychopaths, because they have no empathy, they do go out and do these things.
Actually, I'll give you an example. Actually, if you want me to, actually, if that's okay with George.
Absolutely.
Right, it's like when I go out with my mum and help my mum sometimes, and I take her out shopping, right? And I usually stay at home sometimes, right, on a Saturday. And then, like, I tell my mum I'm going to stay in all day long, right, just to stay in because I want to and stuff. Then probably about 2 hours later, my brain starts to change its mind, and it says, oh, to go out instead and get some fresh air. So it's like, you can tell it's like trying to tell me to go out and get some fresh air or go out and get some exercise. It's just the way it's like controlling me in that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And as Sam Harris was saying about the fatalist position and all that stuff, right? You know, if people say, if we have no free will, then what's the point in anything? Why not just, you know, stay at home and not do anything? You know, well, Sam Harris brought up a good point at one time, didn't he? He said, try laying in bed. You'll eventually get up and do something, because even that will just become, you know, too much for you. You know what I mean?
So too much staying in will kill you.
No, I mean, too much staying in. You would just get bored of it, wouldn't you, George? You know what I mean?
You feel like you're in prison or some shit.
Exactly.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just stay in bed. If you stay in bed, then prison wouldn't be a punishment now, would it?
No.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally true. In fact, you know, like my mom, when she doesn't get out of the house for a while, she gets really cranky, you know. And the part of the problem is she's not able to get out much because we don't have a car and she can't walk really well. So she doesn't get out. And so then she's at home, you know, for a matter of weeks, and she gets really cranky because she wants to get out. And so, but most people, as soon as they get the urge to get out and get some exercise or whatever, they're going to do it because it feels good.
Exactly, yeah. And they want to get fresh air. They just want a life, basically. I mean, staying indoors is just like, it would just get miserable after a while. You would just become very, how can I put this? You need sunlight as well, because we need vitamin D, George. You know what I mean? It's a known fact in science that if you get like sun rays on the skin, that creates vitamin D, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Chandler, all right, so we've been kind of like exploring, you know, why we don't have a free will. But, you know, some people actually get this, but they say, fine, we don't have a free will, big deal. What can you explain to the audience why this is important, why this isn't just an academic trivial point?
Yeah, that's a good point because, yeah, some people get it, but they don't think it makes a difference. Well, it makes a huge difference because I think the main thing is understanding that everything has a cause is what I get the most out of it, because that means you will automatically look for what is causing the things that you don't like so that you can do something to stop it. And anything that causes something that you do like, you try to repeat it, try to cause it to happen again. And it's the basic understanding of causality that's most important with that. But it also understanding that, like, let's say even if it wasn't the whole causality, even if it didn't give us any ability to change things and everything, let's say everything was indeterministic and random and totally acausal and that things happen for no reason. Even then, it's still better for you to understand that people aren't to blame for what they do and that you're not really to blame for what you do, because that means you don't hate others, you don't hate yourself, you no longer feel like punishing people, you don't have the desire for revenge. And so it improves all your relationships with other people in that. And basically, you know, sometimes you get along better with people, you communicate them because you're no longer, you know, blaming them for the way they are. And sometimes you still have to quit talking to certain people because they can't be reasoned with, and they only keep hurting you when you talk to them. But you no longer feel guilty. Like, I used to feel guilty for defriending or blocking people on Facebook. Like, seriously, I felt like, oh no, I'm bad because I have rejected this person. But at the same time, hey, I don't have a free will either, and I'm not gonna take abuse from the things they're saying to me, you know?
Absolutely. Anthony, how long has it been that you've understood that free will is an illusion? Like, you know, what do you find has changed within yourself since you know, reaching that understanding?
Well, I've only recently just got into all this and stuff. Been watching a lot of videos and just like sitting down and watching them and that. And I've been finding my like a real self of me and stuff, like a real part of me that's changed a little bit. Like I mean, I in a way, right? I used to didn't like people from other countries, but then I find myself, to be honest, they're like us anyway. They're just normal people, aren't they, from other countries? Like I I found myself like
Yeah, just grow up in different cultures.
Yeah, different cultures, and we're all human at the end of the day. We've all got feelings, and we've all got this connection of chemicals running through the air, which is exactly the same. I mean, some people's chemicals are different and they change a little bit, but with our personalities and our likeness and our love for our countries are all pretty much the same and stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you recognize, like, if nothing's up to any of us, I mean, does it ever really make sense to like blame someone? You're right. Like Chandler was saying, we may have to like unfriend somebody on Facebook, or if somebody doesn't treat us well, just as a matter of conditioning, we may have to like resort to self-defense, you know, emotional self-defense, whatever. But like, to the extent we do that without hating the person, without blaming the person, holding the person fundamentally responsible, that not only helps them, because then, you know, they're kind of like protected from our wrath. It helps us, because like when we feel, you know, again, Chandler was talking about guilt. A lot of times we also feel anger and hatred toward other people, and when we're not feeling those feelings, we're going to be feeling a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to block a couple of people myself, because actually I've had to block more than 2 people actually, because of the accusations I've been receiving. Same thing with Chandler Klebs. I mean, he got accused of something really stupid because he likes My Little Pony.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you know, here's the deal. Another reason this helps in is mental health stuff. People, if they believe in free will, then they're not gonna seek psychology, psychiatry. They're not gonna seek mental help for problems they have, because they're gonna try to use their free will, which they don't have, and they're gonna fail miserably.
Chandler, that's a great point. A lot of people who are depressed, who are angry, you know, to the extent that they believe in free will, they're going to blame themselves. They're not going to believe that it might be a chemical imbalance or something that can be fixed through understanding the causes.
Yeah, and you know what, George? My mom and I were talking about that in a video that I have on YouTube, actually, which we were talking about depression and suicide, and how depression isn't a choice, happiness isn't a choice. And and she's planning to publish her 3rd book about that. She hasn't written it yet, but that's what she wants to talk about, you know, is about what causes people to commit suicide.
Wow, that's great. Absolutely. Because my friend and co-host of the Manhattan Show, Nick Vale, you know, he was suffering kind of like from like, you know, feelings of guilt and depression and stuff. Just like he didn't, you know, he's a pretty, you know, he owns the family business, whatever, in Manhattan and stuff, and he's doing well now. But for a while, the business wasn't doing well, and he, you know, his life didn't kind of like proceed, you know, completely the way he wanted it to before, and he was blaming himself, right? And so, like, yeah, finally, when he got that free will is an illusion, all of a sudden that guilt, that wrongful guilt just lifted. I mean, it's kind of like this free will stuff. It's a burden. It really burdens us, not just with things that are wrong, but things that are hurtful.
Yeah, it's true. You know, yeah, people suffer so badly from guilt, and that they're the cause of their problems. And like, you know, people tell Jamie Soden that he's the cause of all the drama in his life. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding.
Just because I point out stuff that people just don't want to hear, you know, and a lot of the stuff that I bring up is actually true. You know, like the things with people who've got mental disorders or sexual orientations, they're getting belittled for it, you know, and people are saying, you know, oh, you're stupid for comparing pedophiles to homosexuals. But the thing is, orientation and sexual intercourse are 2 different things. Learn the difference, okay? You know, you could be attracted to something and be a virgin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anthony, like here in the United States, our educational system teaches us, you know, that human behavior, I think animal behavior, just behavior of all organisms, is based on nature and nurture. Do you guys get the same kind of like training in the UK? Because I mean, I think this teaching, this understanding in biology and psychology relates so completely to free will.
I would say, to be honest, yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that actually, because I mean, it's like babies. If you put babies and stuff towards baby animals, they're pretty much the same. It's like I used to have a dog, and she was like a little baby and stuff. Always came up to me, started moaning and crying and stuff, and you have to treat those puppies exactly the same as a human baby and stuff, because they want everything what a baby wants. They want to be loved, they want to be nourished, and they want to be like to be grown up and have their own sort of family and stuff. And it's a beautiful thing.
It is, and the thing is, like, so, like, we don't attribute that, whether it's in animals or ourselves, to a free will. We know that's either our genetics, that's passed down in our genes through our parents, or it's something that we've learned. But, like, whether it's learned or genetic, I mean, there's no room for free will there.
There isn't. And George had a really awesome chapter in his book, Exploring the Illusion of Free Will, as well as an episode about it. Like if you have a free will, then what age does a child gain a free will? Because we don't blame other non-human animals for their behavior, and we don't blame human infants for their behavior. So at what age do these people magically get a free will?
Actually, really, Karen.
It's really stupid, right? That they assume that you're an adult just because you reached the age of 18, when psychology has actually proven that we're not actually adults until we're over the age of 20 at least. And people just have this completely wrong idea about the the justice system. It boggles your mind sometimes. I mean, would you consider like an 18 a real adult, Anthony?
I wouldn't, not until you're at least 25, because I think at that age you're more than enough to be an adult. Like, I mean, some parents won't even let their kids go out until they're at least 24, 25, and they're always watching them and stuff.
Yeah.
And what really annoys me as well, like I was watching this episode on the news going back, I think it was last year, about this bloke who had this dog, and this dog was attacking the police, right? And to be honest, they shot the dog, and I'm thinking this was in America somewhere, but I think this bloke had his dog, came out the side, the police were after him, so he let the dog go up to the police, but the police had no choice to shoot the actual dog because the dog was attacking them. And I'm thinking, to be honest, you can't really blame the dog on that. You've got to blame the owner, because it's the owner who's actually controlling the dog. He's teaching that dog to be vicious and all. And I think, to be honest, that the actual people should be prosecuted, the people. But then again, if free will is an illusion, then that bloke has no way of controlling himself to control the dog either.
Well, Anthony, now you raise an interesting question, because, like, if the dog isn't responsible morally, and if the owner isn't responsible morally, is there anyone, anything, God, whatever, is there anything that deserves blame for any of that?
I suppose you could blame the way the brain cells, I suppose, the actual chemicals reacting to it, I suppose. But then again, chemicals reacting to your brain, that's basically evolution taken over again. Evolution's taken its form. It's actually wrecking havoc and stuff.
But they have this kind of death penalty for like dogs who get vicious with other people or their owners, when you could just simply put a muzzle on them and they won't be able to bite anyone, would they, George? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, again, yeah. The problem with free will belief is it puts the onus of change on the individual, who really isn't responsible for what's going on. Whereas, like, a better, stronger level of control is society. If society, operates in certain ways, has certain laws, has certain instruction and all, then that ensures that we as individuals are going to behave in certain ways.
Yeah. And
you can't blame the dog for having an abusive owner, can you? You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah, and you know what? I saw a really stupid page on Facebook where somebody was saying that all pit bulls need to be killed because they're evil animals or something. And I'm like, dude. And I really shouldn't have in hindsight, but I was commenting and I'm like, well, you know what? Humans are a lot more harmful than pit bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chandler,
especially since we invented a fucking nuclear warhead.
yeah, we're running out of time. You want to wrap this up, and I guess we can do maybe one more if you guys like.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. You've been listening to Free Will, Science, and Religion with Chandler Klebs, George Ortega, Jamie Soden, and Anthony Bishop. And there will be more in the future. Hope you enjoy. Bye.